So some of the other rounds we kind of want to try and make, or maybe try and do some bismuth and steel mix. There's not very many of them on the market. Out of the couple companies that have done it is Migra and Heavy Hammer that have steel bismuth mix. But some of the issues around that is the steel being a lighter density compared to like bismuth tungsten, and that if the steel collides with the bismuth, it usually tends to widen your spread, from what I understanding, or deform pellets. So maybe there's some like what Boss has been doing with the copper plated bismuth that might help kind of compare if there is to be a collision mid-flight during your shot string that maybe I want deformer pellets still give you some more penetration, or maybe something we can try working with it to try and keep it from colliding or widening your spread, maybe putting something in between the two. So there's some testing that we need to do on that end and think outside the box more than the industry has, which doesn't always seem to be a lot, but you never know.
So I think you bring up a good point there, Eric, because having talked with you pretty substantially at the dove field, I picked up pretty early on that you really care about the quality of your product and getting a better shot shell for more bang for your buck for a lack of a better word, because like you mentioned the industry, lots of times you don't get that quality. We do see a little bit more with Migra, with Boss, and a couple of the companies, but I think as hunters, all of us here and many of us listening want, if we're going to spend this much money on shells, we want those shells to be worth that price we're paying. And I think you're really helping bringing more product like that to the market with your quality, with the specs and the testing you're doing. That you're really helping fill that gap between what hunters want in the field to make ethical shots, to make clean kills, and delivering that touch that we don't see out of these bigger shell companies.
Yeah, one thing that I really strove to do for these dub loads, sadly not these ones this year, I wasn't able to get the shot in time, but was doing zinc plated steel shot to keep your shot from corroding. So I mean, it improves the lifespan of it, improves the quality of the shot over longevity, especially if you're in a high moisture environment or around a lot of water, that it won't corrode your stuff or make it degrade in any way, shape, or form. One thing we are looking into and working on is waterproofing all of our ammo to give that extra quality and try and keep the cost low, but make sure that people are happy that if they drop their shell in the water, they know that if they put it in, that it's still going to go bang. You're still going to have a dead duck. And see, and that's what I've been trying to figure out too, because I haven't had anybody sit down and talk to me yet. And I've talked to Brandon, or I've chatted with him on Facebook a few times because he's pretty active in a lot of the reloading groups, and people have asked this question a lot. And I don't know if they just haven't tried it because generally the reason people do it is to drop the cost of a bismuth load. So instead of like $1.60 for a bismuth round, you're looking at more like $1.10, $1.25. It's just to maybe get into some other people's hands that haven't been able to shoot it before, kind of in a sense, or maybe it's application wise. I'm not sure, but it's something we're definitely looking into. I definitely love shooting bismuth, but maybe a steel bismuth mix would definitely change things up. I mean, it could give you the other opportunity to stack it with like bismuth sevens with like steel fives or steel fours to give you more pellets out there. Because when you got sevens, you have like 400 pellets in an ounce or 450 with steel, whereas bismuth, I think it drops some to where it's like 350 somewhere around there, if I remember correctly. Yes. Well, and that's one thing that I've ran into an issue of is trying to find like a 1 ounce bismuth load because that's what I was trying to find for a dub, which then I ended up making my own. And I haven't had it tested yet, but we've shot over a box of it and it's ran through just fine on all of our guns. And then we haven't seen any kind of pressure issues. Usually on a pressure issue, after you shoot it, your primer will be butted out a little bit. Or you might see some kind of signs around here to where maybe your extractor caught, kind of like that, but not so aggressive. And so we haven't seen any of those issues. Matt has a few for you guys to try out and see if you like them. They kick, dude. And if I remember correctly, it's an ounce and an eighth of bismuth, and then there is some buffer in there. And buffer is one thing that's not really used in the industry very much. They usually have like filler, like in what was it? Heavy steel, I think, is what one of my cut open shells that I used to have. They have like little plastic seed looking deals in there. And I don't know if it's like flaxseed or what, but it's just there to change your shot column within your wad to make your crimp look a little better. Make it a little cheaper, maybe even too. Yeah, well, there's a lot of load data out there that's where you like a lot of your hunting wads, they don't have like a piston at the bottom. So a cushion, let me grab one. A lot of your hunting wads will not look like this. This guy has this piston, as they call it, at the bottom, and it's a cushion for when you fire it, it impacts it and kind of crushes. Keeps the pressures from spiking up too high. But a lot of your hunting wads are just this cup, and then you have a gas seal that you put in under it. And sometimes they'll have you put a felt card into the bottom of your shot or at the top to help with the crimping process, or maybe change the pressures or the pattern. Keep the shells from being, or not the shells, the pelts from impacting too hard on each other. There's different things like that, and that's where kind of buffer comes in. Buffer is supposed to make it easier for your shot to go down the barrel. Sometimes it could be, or improve your pattern density to make it tighter, or maybe make your shot string a little longer or shorter in some instances. So there's a lot of different reasons why they might be putting in filler, and maybe one of them is to make it cheaper. You can never know because everybody's load data is different, especially in a manufacturing setting. Some of them have their own specialized top secret load data, like I'm sure Blindside or Dry Lock, and I'm sure all of them are probably pretty top secret. And there's definitely a lot of people in reloading groups that'll post pictures of components from a cut shell, and they'll start asking like, "Hey, what do you guys think they're using? Like, what kind of powder? How many grains? X, Y, Z? What wads?" Because there's definitely people in the industry that shoot non-industry wads that use non-industry wads for their loads. And so that's one thing that I got asked by a guy from the other day, and I was trying to explain to him the difference between maybe a manufactured shell and a reload. And the only instance that I can think of is either their load data is secret, or that it's, I mean, that probably more than likely, or using a once fired shell compared to using a brand new shell. I mean, that's the biggest separator between the two, between a reload and a manufactured shell. And I mean, that's kind of one thing that we've thought about doing here is trying to do reloads and make the cost drop a little bit more to try and still get quality ammo to people who maybe can't afford to purchase something, which kind of goes all the way back into R3 recruit, retain, reactivate. Maybe it's a cost reason why they got out. So yeah, that's a really good point too. I mean, I don't know. I've seen plenty of people do walkthroughs of Federal or Remington or CCI, and they don't ever seem to really get into the specifics as to what they do. I mean, they just kind of show you. But sometimes those are the people that don't know maybe about the industry or about the process or what goes into it. But then you also got companies like Remington that were, for the longest time, I'm pretty sure that was producing their own powder, producing their own shot. Because I've seen videos of their old school shot towers that are like three. I mean, they look like they're like 300 yards tall, where they're dropping lead BBs down a tower into a pool of water to get the right form. But I mean, a lot of that stuff is a lost art. It seems like nowadays, and it's nice to see people like Brandon coming into the industry through Boss and doing different things and changing the game up and trying to put different stuff out on the market, not keeping the same recycled crap, which is another. I mean, to another point on our quality is there's not you go cut open a Winchester Super X shell and you're going to see a horrible shot, which is going to destroy your pattern. And you might not always get the same drop charge for powder in every shell, which can vary your velocities, change your shot stream, change your pattern. There's a true science to shot shells, and it's something that I think a lot of people don't notice because a lot of people are like, "Well, it's a shotgun. You should be able to hit the side of a barn." I'm like, "Cool. Well, we're shooting birds, not barns, buddy." And that's yep, yep. When I even then, I think it could tie back into your whole China ordeal. It's just people wanting more money and not wanting to put out the same quality product that they used to 50 years ago. And that really sucks to see as well. I mean, it seems like a lot of people are starting to wake up on that end and see made in America and handmade in Kansas, handmade in America is a true brand and something to stand behind. That it's good quality. It's what we want. It's what we want to see. Yeah, and that was another thing that I'd like to use Pittman for is that try and push safety, try and like maybe provide some kind of service to where people can bring their choke tubes in for free to where we can check in their internal diameter and make sure that you're not getting worn out to where the next shot shell you shoot through it, it's gonna take the fucking choke with it. I don't know how many times I've seen shit like that. And so I think that's a whole nother thing that maybe people don't understand, like handmade means is that we're watching our process, we're making sure everything's the same, we're making sure that it's good, a good quality product that when it goes bang, you're going home. And that's I can't say that I've ever heard of a federal round exploding next to somebody's face or taking a barrel off due to maybe the hunter being stupid or maybe the shell being bad. But I mean, that's one thing that I would like to say that we will never see. And one thing that really makes me question this shotgun shell and that how I really think it's his gun. Because I mean we are very thorough with all of our rounds. If it's a reload, we make sure that the shell's good, that there's no cracks in the hole, and that the brass is fine, and that there's no corrosion. So yeah. Well, and even then it's getting people that knowledge and letting them know that that's something that they should do. They're trying to teach them to use a caliber because a lot of people don't know, and I'm a machinist. Trust me, there's I've definitely seen plenty of people not know how to use a dial caliper, let alone vernier. Yeah. 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 No, I'd agree. But I mean, even then, trying to use Pittmans to try and teach other things outside of that, outside of gun safety, maybe trying to teach them bird identification. Because I don't, a lot of people not being able to identify a pheasant from a teal, or a mallard from a teal, or a meadowlark from a dove, or a killdeer from a dove. And I mean, the list goes on. You have a federal dove or a hen coot. It's a couple years ago, we were out hunting a marsh that we like to hunt, and we watched it was teal opener actually, and we watched a couple pheasants kick up. It was really nice to watch until they made it over the buckbrush, and they got lit up in September. Whereas pheasant season doesn't start until November. And then the year prior to that, we were watching a group of guys, middle aged people, and so I don't know if they're later onset, adult onset hunters, youth onset, or what, but they were shooting mallards and pintails in September at a marsh, and it like you'd hear them walk over, pick it up. Oh, it's a big duck, and they'd just toss it off or something and just walk back. And it's like, come on, it sucks to see. Yeah, oh, dude. And sometimes I think you can tie that back into people wanting to shoot limits. They don't care what it is. They don't care. They're just out there to shoot birds, and that, I mean, that sucks. But me and my wife were talking to a manager of a wetlands not too far from here, and he was writing people citations just for shooting at birds during teal season that weren't teal. And one instance he told us was this guy was shooting at a wood duck that was flying by, and he was sky blasting, and the whole hunting party with him was yelling at him to not shoot, and he just kept on shooting. And he wrote that dude a fat citation really quick. That was nice to see. I had a buddy that got approached a couple years ago on duck opener at another local marsh, and he had asked this kid what he had shot, and he holds up a coot, and he said, "I shot this coot, and I shot the hen coot, and the hen coot was a pie-billed grebe." I was like, "How in the hell, dude? Like that is a tenth of a size of a coot in the first place, and they don't even look the same." And they don't even. I've heard of people shooting them during teal season. I'm like, man, that don't even look like a fucking teal. And so it's not even just identifying what you're supposed to be shooting, but it's identifying what you're not supposed to be shooting. So a lot of the times I try and like congratulate or tell my hunting party like, good job on our identification today, or good job on our patience for like letting birds fly by because we're not sure what they are. Maybe like a dove is a little too small and you think it's a Tweety and you take a pass on the shot. I mean, you should probably pass on it because it's a small bird. Let it grow. Maybe let somebody else have it. I don't know, but at the end of the day, not taking a shot it isn't a bad thing. Yep. I don't blame them, man. I mean, I know they can see how many years you've held a license, or I think they can. Maybe they can in their truck. And I think they should base a lot of their shit off that. If you've been hunting for 10 years, there's no reason why you should be shooting a wood duck, let alone mud stomping the motherfucker. Like, there's a lot of bad practices, and I think it's because we had a large generation back in like the 60s, 70s, and 80s that were huge in waterfowl hunting, and then boom, there was that giant decline when they outlawed lead and put in steel. Because I've definitely heard stories of people leaving waterfowl hunting because they can't shoot lead, And so I think there was that decline of experience, knowledge, information that they could have passed on, and they just stopped. And I think there was that lead off of experience, and then lack of information. I mean, there's try finding a place online or maybe a place in town that can you can go to and maybe learn bird identification or maybe learn weird off little laws. Like we had gotten into some trouble out of a local place when we were youth. We had hunted the refuge, but we had thought that since we weren't in the refuge, we were in the water, that we'd be fine. But there were no signs posted that you had to be 200 yards outside of the refuge, and I couldn't find anything on their website or on any maps anywhere asking about it. And I mean, I should have contacted them. I should have asked. At the end of the day, a mistake is a mistake, and he still wrote us all up, which I'm fine with. Uh, but it's one of those things where it's like sometimes you just kind of got to put that extra foot forward, even on the state side or the federal side, to try and show people those boundaries. And I think that's one thing that we should also try to be like fighting for as a public is that maybe push for more, maybe online classes for the state to do that we can pay for to be able to be taught bird identification or what we should do, what we shouldn't do, why we have to have a plug in our gun, why we can only shoot 3 shells, maybe different off things like that. Yep. Yeah. Yeah. Well, and then there's I want to say it's Michigan. There's a northern state that has a certain subspecies of Canada goose, and they're myths, and they're pretty local there, I'd have to say. And you have to go through a bird identification class to even get, like, I think it's a goose permit, because they make you get it because they have that certain subspecies, and it's so important to them that they want to make sure that you're identifying it correctly, because it's just some minute feature that's different from a regular Canada goose or a cackler, that you have to be able to identify and spot out, that if you don't pass it, you don't get to hunt. And I think you get like 2 or 3 tries. And then back to the hunter safety, my wife, she just completed it last year, and they teach you a lot of BS in it. They were telling it they were, and it was an online one. It was a what is it, an RA one, and I feel like a lot of people are going to go to that because it's online or it's free. Which, I mean, I understand, but at the same time, it's quality of what you get. And they were teaching her, like, the muzzle loaders were invented in X year and blah blah blah, and they started using them for hunting and this year, and it wasn't even that much about like identifying what you're shooting at, or like little regulations about like button bucks during antlerless season, or identifying what kind of a turkey is, or that there's different species of turkeys throughout the continental 48. And it's a lot of not even hunting related topics, a lot of history topics. So it was more like a history class than a hunting class.
So you're right, Eric. It is I think it's Washington, because actually my buddy going out there later this year. It's the dusky Canada goose subspecies out there, because he has to actually take that on. I think it's either online or in person. I forget which one. Like they show him pictures of different birds, different points of day in flight, and like which one can you shoot, which one can you not shoot. And I think that's really good that they do that. And we should probably enact that on a federal level to where everybody is doing that for better ID. But you know, wrapping things up as we're coming up on the 2 hour mark here. So, really glad to be working with you guys there at Pittman Waterfowl, and looking forward to the great stuff that y'all are doing, because, you know, Boss, as many folks know, started out as a high school science project. And, I'm curious to see what great things in the industry that y'all start bringing out as well.
That's what I'm excited to see too, man. I'm excited to see what's to come. I mean, you can only push quality so far before you got to start thinking outside the box and changing the game. So I think one of the things we would really like to be able to get is that 20 gauge press, and then really start messing around with some sub gauges, especially when it comes to like 28 or 410, 32, 16. Oh yeah, Ray, we've got a lot of cool things to come. So we'll see how that goes. But I'm really excited to be working with you guys as well, and to be meeting some good people, meeting good people out in the field, and seeing people that aren't afraid to go hunt with other people, or maybe to educate them. I mean, I'll be keeping y'all updated on that package ship. I really hope it gets here before Thursday. My wife's gonna be pumping out some. She likes to preset the loads while I'm at work. We got these little plastic cups, and she'll sit there and measure out all the shot, because we don't have a charge bar or a drop tube that can do it. And even then, it's not the most accurate method for dropping steel shots, and we'd probably much rather do it by hand. keep it quality, keep it good, keep it consistent. Hell no. And it's nice to see two people not from Kansas enjoying waterfowl here and hearing good feedback because I think Kansas has definitely been slept on in the waterfowl industry. And I think it's just now starting to come up that Kansas is a true hotspot since we're in the Central Flyway and really centrally located in the Continental that we get a whole mix of shit. And it's what what is what is nice to see in Kansas is that they don't allow guiding on public land. So it should, I mean, not saying it doesn't get done, it more than likely does, but it's nice to see that they want to try and keep public and that it's not going to get monetized just for somebody else's benefit. I was saying this is a pretty big repercussion. But yeah, no, dude, I've heard of people being dirty and getting mad about crap like that, or people peppering people, and it sucks to see stuff like that in the industry. I mean, at the end of the day, we three sure as hell ain't here to always be shooting limits, but I know a lot of those guide guys, they definitely like to push for it. Even if their customers don't want the birds, it's like, come on, that's just not good practice at that point.
For sure, for sure. And we've all seen those, unethical things, and that goes back to the sum this thing up. Take ethical shots, shoot quality ammo, know your birds, don't do dumb shit. Because if you do dumb shit, people are gonna find out, you're gonna look dumb, and you might get a ticket, or even worse, go to jail. So it's simple, you know. Be on the lookout for Pittman's ammo. It's coming. It's gonna be good stuff. We're gonna keep y'all updated on how it shoots, and it'll be a great season this year, boys.
Yep. Yep. 5 a.m. bright and early is when I got to be up. Yeah. So, well, happy hunting and stay safe, friends.
Likewise, brother.
Nice
May your
talk.
shots be easy, your shots be full. Y'all stay safe.